So as mentioned, this is a webinar focused on the future of the digital workplace. In terms of that, we are defining the digital workplace no longer as a place that is in the office. It's forever changing, and it really is about enabling employees to access the systems and tools that they need, really from any device that they choose. So just a quick overview, there'll be two presenters today. Myself, I'm Kieran O'Connor, the Senior Regional Sales Manager for the UK and Ireland. And then further on, I'll pass over to Ross Drummond, who is a systems engineer, also based in the UK. And we'll at the end of that, I'll run through the agenda. We'll start off a little bit about the digital transformation, setting the scene, how Jamf, Apple, and how we can help your digital transformation. I'll then pass over to Ross, who'll run through a bit more about the onboarding, the employee and cultural experience of that. And then finally, we will get to some of the Q&A. So please feel free to drop those questions in as we go along. So before we begin, just to give you a quick summary of who we are and why we are uniquely positioned to facilitate the digital transformation in the workplace. I want to give you a quick overview, quite high level overview of Jamf. So for those that haven't come across us before, we are the world's leading platform for managing Apple in organizations. We're exclusively focused on Apple. It really does make us the natural choice for organizations who are focused on improving their Apple technology experience. So we help over 38,000 organizations manage those Apple devices and continue to help deploy thousands of those devices on a daily basis. The types of organizations that are using us, 9 out of the top 10 of largest UK retail banks, some of the global tech companies, 23 out of the 25 most valuable brands around the world, and 8 of the 10 largest employees or largest companies choose Jamf to actually enable their employees with the new Apple technology that comes out, and they're looking to invest more and more into. So I think we can all agree that work patterns have changed. Certainly a lot over the past few years, if not decades. Traditionally, growing up and going into our first initial jobs, the office has been a real central focus for any technology decisions. It really was about helping drive automation of administrative tasks, whether that was in the finance sector, the legal sector, or even healthcare. And the office was even an influence for a lot of us in actually deciding where to find a house. It was very much about, could I get to the office as quickly as possible, or the least hectic journey to get into the office and being able to do our jobs. But I guess with the evolution of digital workplace, that's actually put the home at more of a central focus, for digital decisions. So today, we can take a call, we can pick up an email, share a file, or literally make a sale from anywhere on any device. What was originally our own desks, today a benches in a trendy coffee shop, a kitchen table, or even sometimes it could be the school car park at a 3 o'clock pickup. Online communication tools such as Zoom or Teams these days actually let us meet face to face and have those type of boardroom discussions and literally anywhere in the world. And these days we actually tend to communicate more and more via chat rather than general talking. And getting instant access to the data literally from anywhere is more of a demand from our employees. It's no longer a nice to have, it's almost a must have to be able to have access. And all of these advances in technology really have allowed us to change our own work patterns. But the thing is that not every organization is equipped or has adopted this at the same pace. And I guess everyone's in the same boat. The COVID-19 outbreak really has forced companies to pivot their entire business model, which has also meant that implementing a digital transformation strategy really was an immediate requirement. Almost overnight, we were all told to stay at home. The digital workplace is no longer just about technology. For companies, it's also about looking for cost savings, improvements in efficiency, and this is all through developments and being able to automate. Employees these days are generally using these in their daily lives. I guess we all are consumers of technology. And a lot of us have great ideas and expectations of how we could better automate things, and we're actually taking them into the corporate world from our own consumer world. And I guess because of that, the employee's choice of technology is really at the heart of the digital transformation. And decisions are really being based on the entire employee experience. It's not just about the devices, but potentially what's attracting them to companies can be based on technology and what's being on offer. So a few questions to kind of ask yourself. How does that change your strategy for the type of technology you're currently offering to your employees? Do roles need to be changed to ensure that we are smarter and more efficient in the use of technology? And making sure that it really is about the user experience. I guess as all employees, we want to consume the products and services in vast amounts of different ways, and we all want this instantly. And I guess setting the scene, all employees have had a drive to want to work from anywhere. The question now is, and especially after lockdown, do you need to work from the office? It's no longer a question from a manager is, do you need to work from home? But it's more about the requirements to work from a centralized office. I think there is a big shift in the ability to work, where employees feel comfortable or able to do their most efficient and effective work for companies. That could be their home. It could be a regional office, a local office, or even the beach, as you can see. And I think putting employees first in terms of a work-life balance, really fitting in with work hours, with the way that modern life is becoming. The question is, I guess the modern workforce and modern employees, do they expect this 9 to 5 working hours, or do they want to consume, or allow themselves to have work experience at different hours during the day to make sure that they can fit in with that work-life balance? I think, and where Jamf really does fit in with this and make an impact is really supporting Apple's approach and their, really putting the consumer or the user at the center of their technology. And it's really driven a growing demand from employees from a younger age through education, university, to have those skill sets that Apple have been offering. I think with Jamf as well, we've definitely had a proven history of this, being able to empower employees to be productive from day one. You may have seen some of the material that we do produce to be able to ship direct to the employees and personalized shipping to literally come right out of the box on day one to supply them with all the technology and access to applications and data that they will need. Keeping employees really happy throughout their entire employment process. There's been companies that I've worked with whereby they want their employees to fall back in love with their IT team. They don't want to see IT as a blocker. They want to see them as the enabler. And then the cultural experience, cultivating a cohesive culture for all employees so that they can continue connecting wherever they may be. But to put the employees first with technology, there are really 3 key areas for IT to support by providing them the right tools, access, and trust. So tools, we really do have to equip the employees with the devices that serve multiple purposes. That could be a laptop, a phone, a tablet, a watch, all to do with enabling them and also providing that security. We also then need to provide the right type of software and the right settings to ensure that they're enabling that. And that comes through access. We need to give them the access to the company data and the services to enable them to do their jobs really effectively and efficiently. That could mean having to change certain things to open up your network, allow them to connect from home, or it could mean a shift of what was previously on-premise access only to more embracing the services on offer in the cloud. And then finally, trust. Yeah, we have to ensure that the right people and the right types of devices can access the right resource. It doesn't mean that we have to really lower the security standards. It just means that we may have to rethink the way that security standards are, and potentially meet them in a new way based on the types of technology that's out there these days. And to talk a bit more in detail about those three key areas, I will now hand over to Ross Drummond.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Yeah, thank you, Kieran. So I guess when we start to look at kind of where Jamf fits into that, this is sort of kind of an overview of our our product suite, and I've tried to tie it in with with the idea of that tools, access, and trust. The tool really to do all of these things, using Apple and Jamf, being Jamf Pro, which is our management standard built for IT professionals, used all over the world, to give folks that access to their machines, to the corporate data. We can use Jamf Connect to allow folks to authenticate, and to allow our IT departments to sort of see who is accessing our machines. And then in terms of that trust, we've got obviously Apple's built-in security framework, and then with Jamf Protect, we've got on top of that some enterprise endpoint management tools purpose-built just for the Mac experience. So kind of gets you everything you need. So what I want to kind of go through here is I guess the onboarding process and where we're at now. Kieran touched there on the idea of having a Mac shipped out direct, or just a device in general. I think we've all probably worked in onboarding at a company is always potentially the slowest day, the easiest day of your employment, while things all the gears start to go in motion. But using Apple's tools and Jamf, we can make it a really seamless and easy process. So if you think about the use cases and the scenarios that you might come up against, in your work, the idea of being able to efficiently onboard users, so they can choose the tools they want to do, they want to use to do their job, and then when they do that, when they get that tool, to ensure that the experience on that is what they are used to. And I think what we're finding at Jamf, and I'm sure everyone is that Apple is kind of the standard of the modern workforce. People, millennials, Gen X's, Gen Z's rather, all those folks, they've been brought up using smartphones, tablets. The iOS is a standard. You tap a screen and things happen. So folks are used to that. And we want to make sure that if you're hiring contractors, people coming in from other third parties, that you want to be able to make sure they can do their work and the work you've hired them to do. All the while having them locked down and secure on your the frameworks you want to implement in your organization. So some of the ways we do that, and the biggest thing, I guess, pardon the use of it, but the wow moment can be using zero-touch deployment. The idea that I can give you the tool to do your job, and it can be deployed with as little or as much interaction as you want your end users to have. Give folks that fully customized onboarding experience. So there's some stats we'll throw at you throughout this, but I guess some of the key ones here is that if you've got Jamf Pro, you'll spend 80% less time provisioning. I think if we look at the old world, as it were, I've certainly lived in that world. You buy your hardware from your vendor. You get a big old desk out. You plug them all into a network, into a switch. They all get imaged. Then they get stored in a warehouse. At which point, all the patches that were on them at that point have all gone out of date. And then somebody comes and joins the company, and they sign in, and they're greeted with a ton of updates, and they have to wait to be onboarded, and it's time consuming, and it's a lot of work, and it doesn't have to be that way. And so what you get when you use Apple and Jamf is a really good level of efficiency. So Apple have these programs, and depending on your industry, is I guess predominantly enterprise here, so we'll talk about the Apple Business Manager. So the idea that you can purchase a product, purchase Apple hardware from whoever you purchase your hardware through and register it against your Apple Business Manager account. And that allows the device to sort of say, I belong to this company. And at that point, you can ship it straight out to that user. And using Jamf, we can configure it to do what you want it to do without you needing to have ever even touched it. So gone are those days that I just mentioned there. And so I think if you've ever been on jamf.com, this is kind of our bread and butter when it comes to our messaging and stuff. Is you open the box, you power it on, and there is no step 3. And now that's not to say there's no step 3. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that your IT departments have done, but for your end users, which if you work in IT or in a customer service department for the most part, you want to make it as simple as possible for your users to get the work done. And so with Jamf Pro we can do that. So there's lots of things in Mac OS, in iOS, that allow us to customize that experience and create that vision of there is no step 3. And there's things like enrollment customization. So this is built into Apple's iOS framework. So this gives you an idea of what it could look like from an iPhone or an iPad onboarding experience. And we can get a very similar experience using Mac as well. But the idea that I can take an iPad and it'll be greeted with my company logo. So I'm like, okay, this is the company I work for now. We can show them an acceptable usage policy. They can accept that. You can pop in a little video from the CEO, or I've worked with we've worked with some other companies where when an employee's been onboarded, they've seen the latest sort of ad campaigns and things like that, which kind of gives you a nice as you're joining the company, kind of feel excited to be part of it. Equally, you can do, less exciting but equally important things like have them accept a acceptable usage policy. And all the while, all these things are happening automatically, but it's all magically going in the background. And then with things like Jamf Connect, the idea that Kira mentioned, we've all had to work from home. I'm doing it right now. I'm sure you all are as well. The idea that we need to be able to have sort of zero trust access. The devices that are out in the world are accessing corporate data. How can we ensure that those things we're still adhering to the standards that we as a company want to have? So that's where something like Jamf Connect can fit in, because it will allow you to choose an identity provider of your choice. Folks that use Azure, Okta, OneLogin, Google, you name it. Is there kind of that's the place you go to pop in your email address and your password to get things. And what we can do is with Mac OS is allow the user to log in with those details, and that's the username and password they use to get on the Mac, to get their email, to access Salesforce, to access Confluence, you name it. And once we've got all that stuff in there, we've got that identity being managed, we've provisioned the Mac. We want to ensure that the passwords and all those compliance, that still all stays in sync whilst we are at an internet cafe, waiting for the kids to come out of school. And that's where Jamf Connect also fits in, because it will allow you to use your cloud identity credentials and keep that password in sync. And we say at Jamf, the stat we've got is 31%. I have seen it go from 31 all the way up to 50 on the amount of help desk tickets being password resets. I think if anyone on the call today has ever worked on a help desk and come back from a holiday or a Christmas break or anything like that, you get a lot of help desk tickets. And if we can empower our users to use with tools that we provide to reset their own passwords and do things like that, you can free up your time to be doing really important work, so that you're not having to be bothered with these help desk tickets. So I guess this all ties into that employee experience, right? So you've probably seen a lot that you get told like, oh, there's a single pane of glass that can do everything, it can do that. I just want one tool to do everything. Well, the reality being that usually, if you have one tool to do everything, it doesn't do everything very well. And that's where, with Jamf, our bread and butter is it's always been on that employee experience. Got Martin Lang here at SAP talking. SAP used to use their own MDM solution a product they built, and they moved to Jamf because that we focus on that user experience. And they're one of our our biggest and most successful customers. Martin, if you've ever attended Jamf Nation user conference, whether it be in London or in Minneapolis, or was going to be in San Diego, you'll have seen Martin Lang, you'll have seen the folks at IBM, Microsoft, Apple speaking about how they use Jamf to ensure that that user experience is protected. And I guess those use case scenarios and the reasons you'd want to use Jamf Pro to manage those is because it's about giving users that employee choice. I think a lot of times Apple hardware has always previously snuck in because the CEO wanted it, or a director wanted it, somebody senior wanted it, or the creative folks with their Adobes and all this. They're the ones that they need a Mac. But I think the reality is that if you give users the tools, and in fact, Fletcher Previn presented on this at Jamf Nation Roadshow, the user conference last year. If you give users the choice to use the products they want to use, they're more likely to stay at your company. They're more likely to be happy at work. If you get to use the products that you are used to using at home, you've got a level of tier 0 kind of support built in when it comes to their knowledge of the hardware you're providing. And then the other thing you can do is you can allow us to curate and provide resources. So I talked about imaging before as well. Those days of having to put Chrome, Firefox, Opera if you're weird, Internet Explorer, whatever on the Mac, all these browsers, it's endless because you're constantly having to update them. But what if you could just give your users, they don't need to be admins, but with Jamf Pro, a curated app store that they can pick and choose the tools they need, all the while adhering to the security and privacy settings that you want to have in your environment. And so that's where Jamf Pro comes in. So that device management, again, there's another little stat for you. Jamf Pro customers spend 65% less time managing policy and settings changes, because what we have is some magic stuff called smart groups, unique to us, a binary agent for macOS, all using coupled with Apple's MDM framework to give you complete control of your Apple estate. And we've got app management as well. So we have the ability to, again, I mentioned that Apple Business Manager earlier, Apple School Manager. There are tools from Apple that allow you to go and purchase, free apps, paid for apps en masse, and then deploy them to users. I've previous jobs of, whether that's giving folks, nice things so they can all have WhatsApp desktop on their Mac, or, important things like in the entire Office suite so they can all be automatically updated via the App Store. And it means that, again, you use Jamf Pro, you're not having to put in Apple IDs. There's not one big generic Apple ID. Oh God, Ross is on holiday. What's the username and password to update Final Cut Pro? That all gets managed automatically using Jamf Pro and Apple's Business Manager. And I mentioned it before there, and having that resource available to users, that's where self-service really comes in handy. And it really helps in terms of branding and awareness of your users as well, is that if you empower your users to do the things they want to do, whether that's install applications or trigger custom workflows, you can put that into self-service. For example, when we did go to offices, Jamf have our European headquarters are in Amsterdam. So the first time I came to Amsterdam, because it saw that I was on the Amsterdam network, it installed the printer drivers for for the printers in that office. But equally, you could have it so that they could have temporary access to install the printers for their home if you wanted something like that as well. So there's lots of different custom workflows and things that you can do. And again, it's all about reducing that kind of being on the phone. Can you screen share, can you click this button for me? It's all about getting rid of that and making it easier for you. So that was Pro. We talked about Connect earlier, and then I guess the final piece is about Protect. Apple offer us built-in security tools on the Mac. It's inherently secure OS. But what you tend not to get is visibility onto that from an InfoSec perspective, right? So again, everyone's remote at the moment. Everything's can feel a bit like the Wild West sometimes. But with things like Protect, what we can do is you can have visibility of your Apple estate. Using Jamf Pro, you can employ remediation techniques. So if folks don't have file vault, so disk encryption turned on, you can enable that. If their energy saver settings, if it never goes to sleep, things like that, we can enable those. But equally, the built-in tools of Apple in macOS are being triggered, we can get visibility on that as well. So folks are constantly trying to install apps from that aren't signed by Apple. They're trying to bypass security settings. We can be alerted on that as well. And we can respond and remediate all of that using Jamf Pro and Jamf Protect. So, whether that be, hey, you try something called Flash just tried to be downloaded, but it wasn't signed by Adobe, we're going to delete that. Or, depending on how you want to be in your security departments. I've worked at some big corporations where if they found anything on a Mac, they would just ask me to wipe it completely. So, we can do that as well. It's up to you, kind of depending on your stance of security. But the idea being that, with those three tools, Connect, Pro, and Protect, you've got that complete management of your Apple estate, and you're able to, and this has all been done in the cloud, right? We're not having to spin up any infrastructure anywhere, any on-prem hardware or anything like that. It's all being done in the cloud so that your users can do their work, be anywhere, do anything that you want them to do. And so that kind of covers, our product portfolio. One thing we didn't touch on there was Jamf Nation, which again, good chance that if you're not a member now, you can become one after this call. There's 100,000 plus Apple administrators on there. It's a great place to go for advice. If you Google how to do something on a Mac in an enterprise environment, chances are you're going to get Jamf Nation result. And coupled with all those the products we have, we've also got if you're looking at this today going, gosh, that's there's 3 new products for me to learn. Well, we've got things to help you with that. So there's pro services, so you can have Jamf come along and create it all for you, do all the workflows for you. Equally, if you want to have some training, we've just recently launched. There's some free resources out there. You get some, you get a whole suite of training available to you as a Jamf customer at training.jamf.com. We have something called the Jamf 100, which is if you've never even touched a Mac before and you just want to kind of have a good understanding of what that's like in an enterprise environment. I highly recommend. It's a free course, the Jamf 100. Go check that out today. And then equally, we work with Apple, and we only work with Apple. So that means our support team know all about Apple, right? So that's the benefit. If you've ever called, other folks where it goes, can you help me with this? I'm running a Mac, and then they have to scurry around and find the one person that knows how to do the Apple stuff. That doesn't happen at Jamf because that's our bread and butter. And then, yeah, just to reiterate, Jamf Nation, 100,000 plus members. That's a place you want to go to kind of, if you want to start dipping your toes and seeing, what's going on with Apple. It's not vetted by us. In terms such as, so whenever we show the screenshots, people kind of sometimes be like, you're displaying, people are having issues with Apple, but it's like, well, yeah, of course, sometimes things break. And I think, it's just kind of shows our commitment to our end users and the world of Apple at large. Thank you so much for listening today. We'll email you guys when the recording is finished. If you want to learn more about Jamf, you can email info@jamf.com.